So you've been teaching for many years now. So you've had a lot of students. You've probably read a handful of screenplays, just a handful, in the course of your time teaching. What is the biggest mistake you see first time screenwriters make?
It's an interesting question because my perspective is a little strange in that I'll train them initially. So like they're not writing a feature script. Nobody hands me a feature script right away and has me assess it. They have to go through kind of like etudes. You know how musicians have scales, etc. Well, we have writing etudes. You know, they're going to exercise different writing muscles, and then they build up to a feature. And then I'll start working with them on that. So the ones I've consulted on where I get a full length. Are you hearing a hammering somewhere?
Okay. No, it's okay. Go ahead.
Okay. We got sound engineers, you know, they'll get rid of that. No. The ones that I see nowadays, what I tend to notice is that in a way they're overthought. Like they're so encrusted with all these different, you know, they read a lot of books on it and they want to do it right. And I'll have stories that are promising, but I see that they're jamming it into some idea, and then they're really proud of the fact that I have the second twist here. See, I got it here, and this is here. And so there's often a departure between a conflict between what their story is and how they're executing it. So, for example, I was working with someone working on a romantic comedy recently, and this person had a woman, main character, and she's going she's with the wrong guy, you know. She's with the wrong guy, and the right guy's right out there. So, end of the second act, he's got this all is lost moment, or dark night of the soul. And that moment consisted of her finding out that the guy that she's with is all wrong for her. He's not only not right for her, but he's stealing, and he's cheating. I don't know what, he's probably got, you know, murdering puppies somewhere. It wasn't that bad, but it was like she makes this discovery. And why? Because you're supposed to have this happen at the end of the second act. And I said, well, wait a minute. She doesn't belong with this guy. So maybe the end of the second act is she gets him. You know, that's not what the audience wants. But it sounds like, from what your material, the worst possibility would be that she winds up with the wrong guy. So the worst thing that could happen is he proposes to her and she accepts it. Now we have a third act tension, which is going to be, is she going to realize in time before the wedding that the right guy is right there? You see, the landscape is, I like to say all truth in screenwriting is local. You know, it always depends. Yes, you could have a desperate moment at the end of the second act, but it depends. It depends on what the terrain of the story is you're working on. And so I've run into that. I don't know how helpful that is. The other thing I notice that I have to work with students on is dialogue. And the mistake that they make, and it's certainly a mistake I made, and it's a mistake that people starting out make. And I can see that it's not about overall feature screenplays. It happens in short films, so I can tell you what they come with, is what I call Q&A dialogue, question and answer dialogue. It's a character enters the room and says, how are you today? And the person says, not bad. I didn't sleep much last night. How about you? Well, I slept pretty well, but I'm thinking of going to the store. Would you like to go to the store? I think I might go to the store, but you know, where one person questions, the other one answers, and it's emotionally neutral. So we I work with them on how to overcome that problem, how to understand how characters interact and how you can avoid that sort of behavior in your scripts and then make them readable. So that's a mistake that I see, and that's what people do. It takes a while.
I realize when I was first writing screenplays, I'm by no stretch a master screenwriter by any stretch, but when I first started writing, I did everything. A lot of the things that you were saying right there, I did because I read so many books and I read so much technique that I was like, on page this has to happen on this line. So I would like jam it in there, regardless if it meant it was correct or not correct. And I would literally conform the story around absolutely having to hit this specific point. And I found it, and from my own experience, that it is just, it's insecurity. It's an insecurity of not feeling comfortable with the craft enough to be able to just let me do what I need to do to tell the story. Like, with these master screenwriters out there, even master filmmakers, that they just take their time, and they don't have to hit certain things. Yes, they're going to hit probably the 3-act structure, or something like Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I think has a 5-act structure, if I'm not mistaken. Those kind of things, they'll hit those points in good time, and as long as it works within the story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's to me, it's because I was trained before a lot of theories came out, other than Aristotle and
poetics, of course,
some other more traditional drama. The way I was trained, you look at what's the function, and what Danielle, from the very first meeting, first class, it's about connection as opposed to expression. Take a step back and ask yourself, when you go to a film school, when you take a writing class, what is it you're actually learning? You're not learning how to be creative. That's not something that can really be taught that we know of yet. Mm-hmm. And you can create circumstances by which people can maybe be more creative, but it's not well understood, and it's hard to model with computers, to get computers to be creative. So we don't do that. We don't teach you the creative process. What we do teach you, though, what we have learned a lot about over the last several thousand years, is we've learned about audiences. And we can, if you know that your job is to connect with an audience, we can teach you about audiences. And I don't mean like a particular demographic. I mean a general person, a normal human being. How do people respond to material? And so when you think about how a story is structured, say, and that's a term that's used a lot. By structure, I guess I would mean the arrangement of the pieces, the pieces being the scenes and information. You can see that strategy, 3 acts, 5 acts, whatever, as a kind of a subset of the bigger question of how do I grab them and how do I keep them? And how do you grab an audience and how do you keep that audience? And if you know if you have the tools to do that, you can use it in a variety of very exciting, interesting ways, and you can pivot between a feature film and a stage play and a series, streaming series, because you know how that's done. You know how to get in people's heads. And that's one of the things that fascinates me about this, and why I wrote that second book with Connie Shears, a psychology professor. It's how do films get into people's heads? And how can you teach people how to get into people's heads and manipulate them? And one of the things I like to do when I'm lecturing is I'll show them like a short film that I like a 4-minute movie, and then I'll stop it, like with about 30 seconds left in it, and say, sorry, we got to move on. I'm sorry. This movie has achieved something. It's got them wondering what's happening next. And when I do that, you hear the groans. And I say, what's wrong? Hey, I showed you most of the movie. Why do you have to see the rest? And I just showed these images up here and sound, and it went out into that audience, and it worked them over, and it manipulated them. And now they're pissed because they want to see the end of this. And that's like amazing. And I love that fact, and I love learning how to do that and then teaching people how that can be done. And so when we talk about 3-act structure, or do you need it or do you not need it, it's about how you define acts. And if you define them by function, what is the function of the act? Well, if the function is to create what we call dramatic tension, which is will the boy get the girl or the boy get the boy? Let's not genderize this. We're in the modern age. Will the LGBTQ person get the one that they like?
Yes.
Will that person get that person? Okay, that's the question. Okay, and if we connect with the character, we're going to be tilted into the future. We're going to be wondering whether they're going to get that person. And then, so you wind up in drama, it's called the main dramatic question. Okay. Will the person get the other person? And the question has three parts. You pose it, you deliberate, and you answer. You don't need more, and you can't have less. And so if you want to do dramatic tension as your main tool for keeping the audience interested in your movie, you don't have a choice. I mean, if the audience is watching something and they don't know why the character is doing what they're doing, then they're not going to be in suspense about whether they're going to get what they want. It's not going to work. So therefore, you need to pose that question in the audience's mind. And then the third act is you answer the question.